Hello, my name is Ron Woods. I'm the Computer Services Manager at the St. Clairsville Public Library, and today we're going to go over how you fill out your census online. Now, you may have received a letter that looks very similar to what you see here on my screen, and it allows you to either fill out your census online, you can do it over the phone, or you can do it through the mail. So even if you haven't received one of these letters, you can still fill out the census, which is what I'm going to show you here in a minute. So to fill out your census, the first thing you need to do is you need to go to this 2020census.gov. This is the website you're going to go to, and you're going to see something similar to what you see here on my screen. And it's going to have a link here that says Respond Now. So you click on the Respond Now button, and it's going to give you a page that looks like this. It's going to say, welcome to the 2020 census. It's quick and easy to fill out. It'll take you about 10 minutes to complete. It's safe, secure, and confidential, and your information and privacy are protected. They're not going to share this information with anyone. And your responses to this kind of will help decide where federal monies go to local communities for schools, roads, and other public service projects. So it's very important that you fill this out. So you must complete the questionnaire once you start. If you leave and return later, then you'll have to start over again. It's telling you not to use your web browser's back and forward buttons. You want to use the buttons that are inside the questionnaire to navigate. And for best results, you want to use the latest version of your newest web browsers like Chrome, Firefox, or Safari. So down here at the bottom, you can see where it has lists of the languages. We're going to choose English here, which is the default, but if you speak or read a different language, you can choose from the language options down here. So we're going to click Start Questionnaire. It's going to come up on here and it's going to say, please log in. It's going to ask you use the materials we mailed you or left at your door, and all the information you provide will be confidential. Now, I haven't received a letter or gotten anything from the census here, but if you have, then you can enter this 12-digit code that's found here that you can see here. Well, since I don't have that, I need to come down here and click I do not have a census ID. Now, when you do that, it's going to ask about your address, and they need to know where you've been living. So I'm just going to select here a United States state or District of Columbia, and I'm going to hit next. It's going to ask me for my address, so I'm going to put in my house number address. I'm going to put in my street address. I'm going to put in my city. I'm going to put in my state, and then I'm going to put in my zip code. Now, if you don't have a street address, you check this here, and it's going to give you options to fill out, like if you live in an apartment building and say your mail gets delivered to your apartment, or if you, or you know what I mean, or you have a different mailing address. So I'm going to go ahead here now, and I'm going to click Next. And it's going to say, please review your address. Here's the address you submitted using the standard abbreviations, and I'm going to go ahead and hit Submit. Now it's going to ask what my name and telephone number is, so I'm going to put in my name. Okay. And I'm going to put in my phone number. And then I'm going to click Next. Now it's going to ask you there's going to be questions it's going to ask you. First, it's going to ask you some household questions, and then it's going to ask you some people questions. So you have to answer the household questions first, so I'm going to hit Start. And it's going to say, including myself, how many people will be living or staying at my address. So I'm going to enter how many people I have living in my house. Now remember, if you have kids living with you, you have to include them, even if they're under the age of 18. You have to include pretty much relatives. If you have grandma living with you, grandpa, anybody like that, you have to include those people in there. You don't have to include anything else, just the number of people that live with you. Then you're going to click Next. And it's going to ask, what is the name of each person who will be living and staying with me during this time? So, of course, I have my name listed up there. And I'm going to put the names of the other person that's living in my house with me. And then I'm going to hit Next. If you have if you have another person to add, you just click this Add Another Person, and then you continue inputting their names until you have everything listed. And then you're going to hit Next. Now it says we do not want to miss any people that might be staying. It's asking you, do you have children, related or unrelated? Do you have little babies, grandchildren, foster children, relatives, roommates, or people without a permanent place to live? And it's like, and then it's going to ask you, will there be any additional people that you did not already list? So you're going to select, I'm going to select no in this case, but if you're not quite sure you understand what that means, you can click this button here and it'll bring up a little window here and it's going to give you some more information about what they include. What they include is people staying at your address. So I'm going to go ahead and click next, and it's going to ask it's going to ask this question: on April 1st of 2020, will the house, apartment, or mobile home on St. Clairsville be owned by you or someone else with a mortgage? It's asking you pretty much if you have a mortgage, whether you own or whether you rent. So for me, it's owned by me without a mortgage or loan. If you rent an apartment somewhere, you would select rented. If it's occupied, like say if somebody's just letting you live in a spare bedroom they have, then you would just choose occupied without payment of rent. So I'm going to go ahead and hit next. Of the people who will be living at my address, who will own the house, apartment, or mobile home? Of course, I'm going to select me because I own it. And I'm going to hit next. Household questions are completed. Okay, now it's going to ask questions about me here. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit start. It's going to ask me if I'm male or female, so I'm going to select that I'm a male. I'm going to hit next. It's going to ask me for my date of birth, so I'm going to put my date of birth in here. I'm going to select from the radio boxes here. And then it's going to verify. It's going to automatically populate my age, and as long as that's correct, we're good. I'm going to hit next, and it's going to ask what my ethnicity is. Let's see here. So he's asking these questions. No. So I'm going to put no, not of Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origin. And I'm going to hit, but if you are, then you would select it. Like, it has questions here saying yes for this one. It has yes for this. So we're going to hit next here. And now it's going to ask me what my race is. So here I'm just going to select, white for me. But you would just select, from the choices it's listed here. And then you would hit, and it's also got some optional fields here, so if you want to include more information, you can. Then you're just going to click next. No, it's not going to let me. I have to fill out something underneath this blank. Okay. So in this case, I'm just going to put, because that's really what I am. So I'm going to hit that, and I'm going to hit next. Now it's going to click this one here. I'm going to choose, I'm going to choose who this is. So let's see here. Check that there, hit next. Check this here, and hit next. Okay. So I'm not quite sure of the exact date of her birthday, so I'm just going to enter her approximate age and hit next. And then of course I'm going to check this box here. This is the same as what you did for yourself. You'll have to do this for each person of your family. Okay, and then you fill this out like that. Put that in there like that. You scroll down, you hit next. Now everything's here. See, all this is completed. So then I'm going to hit start here, and it's going to ask me some questions and make sure only people are only counted once. Okay. Okay, so it's going to ask you, do any of the following people usually live or stay somewhere else? And you're going to select none of the above. I'm going to hit next. See, it says you're almost finished and you're now ready to send your responses. Once your questionnaire is submitted, you will not be able to access your information or change any of your responses. After you submit your responses and are shown on the confirmation page, you may close your web browser. You must select Submit to complete your questionnaire. Would you like to send your responses now? And you hit Submit Questionnaire. And you're done. There you go. You're finished. So as you can see here, thank you for completing your census. It's given my address. It's given the date and time I done it. It's going to tell you that you'll probably receive a letter in a few days, and you can just disregard it. And it says if you have any questions, you can call the phone number that's listed in the printed material, and there's a confirmation ID right there. So see, just in case, I'm going to go ahead and click on this, and I'm going to save this little file here on my computer just in case somebody would just in case I'd need it for my records. And now it's saying you can close your browser and you're done. So that's it. So that's how you go about filling out your census online. If you have any questions about this, you can contact us at the library through the web chat we have on our website. And with that, thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.